more people faster out of poverty than China. I don't think we ought to get, too hung up. We could talk about human rights, yes, but talk about the right to vote in a multi-plural election. No, I think it's more important to talk about peace. And in any event, in this case, it's not a group, not an organization. They're trying to begin, as I read the statement, to begin an inclusive process that will not change the world order, including its emphasis on democracy. It will salvage it, save it, reform it, make it democratic. The United Nations is not democratic. That's what they're talking about.
So talking about a reformed old world order and resuming world leadership for the BRIC countries, I've also heard there are sounds from the international community thinking that China has not necessarily taken up enough leadership or a more responsible role in terms of global affairs that is in correspondence with its fast economic rise and the role it is playing in the world economy today. China is a permanent member on the UN Security Council, but it also abstains a lot of its votes. And I was wondering whether you could comment on that. I do not ever see China, like the renminbi, becoming a global currency. It's just not, it's not possible in the world today. And even if China is becomes the largest economy, it's just not in our national cultural nature. And do you feel that China, by taking this sort of more modest, humble role in the global like other issues other than economy, it is buying itself more space or flexibility for its economic development? Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure quite what the question is. I agree with the general proposition, or one of your propositions, and have tried to make it unsuccessfully time and again. I've gone back through Chinese history and pointed out that there is in Chinese history very, very little evidence of aggression. China has been on the receiving end. Its territories have been ripped off, concessions have been won from it. But once the empire, the Continental Empire, was consolidated, very little, I might get a little argument in Vietnam, but very little evidence. Even during the late Ming Dynasty, when the great treasure ships, the world's largest by far, roamed the world, perhaps discovered the Western universe, no attempt at colonization, at exploitation. The caravels of the Portuguese would sail into Goa with cadavers hanging from the yardarms to pillage. Never in the Chinese history. I'm not too optimistic, and I've had this experience personally with the Chinese leaders. Very diffident, very step-by-step, very cautious, and not much inclined to, take the point, as we say, they suggest, and this is, I think, typical, a collegial process. When I suggest a project on international monetary reform, and they invite us in from all over the world to a huge conference to talk about these issues. And then I say, well, why don't we get moving? They start, backing off a little or try to, defer us to an academic setting where we can talk these issues out and discuss them in a way that's non-threatening. So there is no hegemon. The United States is not, Europe is not, and maybe out of this, can come what the United States, and my father was one of the founders of this New World Order, really hoped for, which was, a cooperative world order. It didn't have a hegemon, though we were in that role for a time. And if you look, we can't read about China in the American press, But if you go to the UN, you'll find that they're contributing more than their share, not only to dues, but to peacekeepers now, peacekeeping missions. They're participating in the activities of the United Nations, but they don't have our enthusiasm for, regime change in Libya or wherever it is. I think we humans have a tendency to transpose our values to other countries which don't necessarily share them. We have demonstrated some aggressive tendencies which may not be shared by the Chinese, though we attribute them to the Chinese. The South China Sea. I mean, how would we like it if Chinese aircraft and military ships were patrolling right off the coast of Newport or Los Angeles? Yet they have to accept that. And if they're in the least menacing or resentful, then we accuse them of being menacing. In the case of the South China Sea, from what I've said, I've seen, the press has misinterpreted China. They're perfectly prepared to negotiate a resolution of conflicting disputes in the South China Sea. We need to understand one another better. And your presence here, I've seen it over and over again, Chinese understand us better than we understand them. One of our highest missions should be to get more American students, politicians, over to China to see it for themselves. I've seen many come back saying, "Ooh, this isn't what we expected at all."
I just have a quick question about innovation. Earlier you mentioned that there was a big gap or growing gap between the BRIC countries and the US in terms of innovation. Now I'm wondering what's really contributing to that, because right now the US maintains its stature as the country with some of the best research universities in the world. Many students from overseas are coming over to the US to learn the skills. And in addition, the US is also still very competitive in medical and military technology research. So what is driving the trend for BRIC to kind of surpass the US in terms of general innovation?
In terms of innovation, technological?
Yes.
Innovation? Well, I don't think I said that, and if I did, I shouldn't have, because I shouldn't be generalizing about all the BRICS. I happen to have had the responsibility for technology innovation in the United States and have authored very successful policies, including the Stevenson-Weidler Act, which promoted cooperative research with government support. We opened up the national laboratories, created technology utilization windows, et cetera, et cetera. And the 90s followed. It wasn't exactly a coincidence. But I think we're losing our edge. I mentioned that the ideologues arrived in, when Reagan came in, they cut back all of our efforts. Also, these included efforts to develop alternative sources of energy. Magic of the marketplace shifted resources to the military. I saw a study recently, and I don't want to attribute everything to the Reagan administration, but when you look at education in the United States, what's going on at other countries, the reverse immigration we heard about a moment ago, people now, companies also locating their research facilities in East Asia. Students who come here, used to stay here, now they go back. I think it's changing, but the only serious study that I have seen is a study by Georgia Tech, founded by the National Science Foundation. came out maybe a year ago, and they tried to quantify, tried to measure technology innovation. I can't remember how they characterized it exactly, but it was technology innovation, creativity, and they included technology exports. There are about 30 factors which they pulled together to try to rank countries according to their capacity and ability for technology innovation exports. At the time of that study, the US was on this line, China was on that line, and we were right at the center. They said we are right now at the crossroads. China is, according to their analysis, moving forward, and for a lot of reasons have to do with, education, economic opportunity, priorities of your government. Look at the priorities of the U.S. Government. We may be ahead in military technology, cutbacks in funding, leave it to the magic of the marketplace, et cetera. I might thank you very much. It's been great.